Today we're gonna talk about a first smart skill in this channel. Schedule compression. This skill comes from project management field, but it can be really very useful skill in everyday life. It doesn't need to be anything related to professional work or business. I will show you examples from real life, personal examples. You can use it widely in all the areas and aspects of your life. I am Dr. Project and you are watching Smart Projects, Smart Skills. Okay, let's dive in. You may remember that schedule compression idea came in previous video when we were talking about Project Triangle, and when we were considering a trade-off within Project Triangle, we were considering trade-off between budget and project duration. And I explained that this trade-off is not always very straightforward. Schedule compression is one of the examples how you can win some time, shorten duration and deliver the same scope by applying schedule compression technique and by using more financial resources, so increasing your budget. But I also mentioned that this really works when your project is in good health, because if project is having troubles and it's really fighting and every month and you don't have really any potential good probability of delivering this project, potentially it's better to call it a failure. I was also explaining that technique like schedule compression works really well in some phases of the project, but in some other phases it's maybe not so good tool, and you can come back to the previous video to see these examples. Schedule compression. There are two main types of schedule compression. One, it's called fast track or fast tracking, and the second one is called crushing. And to explain that in a very basic way, crushing means you doing the same exercise with more resources, and of course I will give examples in a second. And fast tracking means that you are doing two tasks simultaneously and you are winning on duration in that way. Okay, let's continue with more details around fast tracking. First option is that you are having overlapping tasks. So instead of having them one after another, you'll have something like this. So assumption here is that second task can start before the first one is completed. And the second option for fast tracking is that you have two tasks running in parallel. So we can make this kind of visualization for that. And here assumption is that each of them can start at the same moment and they can finish together, or one of them can finish earlier. Also another possibility. Okay, let's take a look now at examples from daily life we all know and we all use quite often for fast tracking. So for instance, we are listening to the podcast while driving to work. We watch YouTube while cooking dinner. I bet a lot of people are doing that. And for instance, we talk on the phone while we are doing some house cleaning exercises. Now let's focus on business related examples. What examples we can find here? Being on the virtual meeting and at the same time reading your emails. We love to do that. A lot of people are doing that because it simply saves you time, and of course here potentially assumption is you are just a participant, not a meeting leader and presenter. And yeah, this example is brilliant and is known for decades. It's a business lunch. You are inviting someone to have business lunch with you, and that way you can discuss business and at the same time you can have lunch, so which you would have anyway potentially, so it saves you potentially 1 or up to 2 hours. Okay, crushing. Let's focus on crushing now. What do we have here? So in crushing, the idea is that the task is compressed, and we can visualize that something like here. And examples of crushing, known examples, very popular, are, for instance, you're asking your children to help you with cleaning of the house, or you hire external help, cleaning company, to help you with cleaning your house. Next example, very often we do that. We order ready food and we ask to have it delivered to us. This is lunch or dinner crushing. Hiring more painters to paint house quicker. Yes, you are doing some renovation, you can do it yourself. You can hire one painter, but you can hire 2 or 3 or 5 of them and they will do it much quicker, but would be potentially more expensive option. Okay, now technology in action. Yes, definitely good example. So thinking about crushing, you should definitely consider not only adding more resources, not only adding human resources or outsourcing. You should also consider applying technology and automations. These are very good examples of crushing. And nowadays, AI being a game changer, yes. So everything which is happening with AI, it has a lot of room for applying, and it would be very often crushing a lot of tasks we are doing. Okay, there are also another 2 techniques of schedule compression which are not so popular, but they exist. So first one is known from agile methodologies, from project management field. And as you may have heard, a very popular way of running projects is to have sprints. So main idea behind sprint is that the duration of the sprint is fixed. So you either have 1 week or 2 week sprint. So idea is that before the sprint it is agreed which stories can be cut before end of the sprint in order to deliver on time. So that's why I'm saying this concept originates from agile project management methodologies. So we can think about it as, for instance, example, you are getting application or some part of the code on time, but with fewer functionalities. Another example from daily life, not business related, is that you are cooking a dinner for your family, but you are skipping dessert because you don't have time for it. So yes, so we are delivering on time, but less scope. And the fourth technique of schedule compression, I know it sounds very bad, because we as professionals in different industries, but the people who are professionals, they hate to reduce quality, and I understand that. It's a very, very common way of thinking about what you are delivering, products or services. But yeah, this technique is also there, and we should remember about it, because sometimes it will find it fit for purpose. So what do we have here? For instance, coming back to our example, dinner will be served with dessert, but both will go with less ingredients, or maybe dessert will be bought and it will be delivered out of the box. So maybe just simply ice creams instead of being homemade. So yeah, but it will be delivered on time, whole dinner with the dessert. Okay, I hope you liked presented examples. And on top of that, I would like to also mention that you need to remember schedule compression, both fast tracking and crashing, are very nice and smart techniques, but you need to remember that they are also having some risk involved. Now let's focus on risks involved with applying schedule compression techniques. Recently, term multitasking is very popular. Yes, we are using fast tracking very often nowadays by using multitasking. But let's remember that key aspect of real fast tracking is that it shouldn't reduce quality. It should reduce overall duration while keeping quality intact. However, applying multitasking very often leads to lowering efficiency and also lowering quality. So my advice is, unless you have chosen reducing quality as a schedule compression technique, you shouldn't do that. So please, a main takeaway here is that bad multitasking is leading to lower efficiency and lower quality. So if you do that, you need to keep that in mind and maybe limit the number of the tasks you are performing simultaneously. And for crashing, the most common risk is that you are introducing new resource to be added to perform a given task. And this is, from my experience, very often this additional new resource to the mix, added to the mix, is less experienced and therefore it's less efficient, and they may make some errors which may lead also to lower quality. I think it's very important to consider. Okay, I hope that from today's video you learned that these techniques are quite powerful and useful. So they can really shorten the duration and sometimes they are very easy to apply. We also learned that there are some risks involved with applying them. And from my experience, I can add that these techniques, although are kind of very natural and sometimes we are trying to use them by intuition without referring to these names, they are still not quite so popular. So I encourage everyone to apply these techniques wherever possible. And like with every technique, you need to apply them again and again and again to gain some experience on how to really make it well for you to work and mitigate all the risk related to that. And from my experience, I was using these techniques quite heavily in 2 phases of the project. For sure, we were using that technique quite often in the development phase by simply adding more developers, and it was relatively easy to apply during testing phase, especially UAT, user acceptance tests, because it's quite easy always in the organization to find additional resources during the testing phase from the customer side, regardless if you have internal customer or external customer to your organization. Because simply very often, even if you have 1 or 2 permanent resources from the customer working in your project team, but when you approach testing phase and you simply ask, can you provide us more resources for this limited number of days, limited amount of time, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some days, very often I come across situation that customer is very willing to designate additional people because first they have interest in having a good quality and more people are testing, even if you are testing the same test scenarios, but simply more people are having contact with the product, we have higher probability that we'll find more defects and the product would be having better quality on the production. And also, if this is initiative which is very limited in time, which is very often the case, it's probably very often not a big challenge for managers of these people to assign them to such task. Okay, I hope you liked today's video. I am Dr. Project and you watched Smart Projects, Smart Skills. Thank you very much. Goodbye and good luck.